Welcome to Hope, honoring ourselves purposefully every day. This is the first episode to be recorded in the brand new Rogers TV studio. In an upcoming episode, we will go on a behind-the-scenes tour to see how the show is made. On this episode, however, we will be talking about grief and loss. After the passing of my brother, who was born incidentally on my 4th birthday, I decided to delve further into the process of grief and loss for the benefit of my own healing experience and anyone else who tunes in. That's when I decided I was going to do not just one, but 2 episodes on the topic of grief and loss, feeling and healing. This is the first episode. Stay tuned for a couple of inspirational interviews on this difficult subject. Hello, I'm Deb Bartok, host of Hope, honoring ourselves purposefully every day. And we have a special guest today. I'm really excited to learn from her and to have a visit with her. Her name is Catherine Jensen. Do you go by Kathy or is Catherine?
I do.
Either
Kathy,
or?
Either or, yeah.
Okay, that's like me, Deb, Debbie, Jana, anyways. Okay, so we are excited to have you here. I want to know who you are. Of course, the show is about grief and loss. I've experienced quite a bit of that in the last year, and in doing so, I realized that there are so many more out there that are experiencing the same. And I think we need a little bit of help to just keep moving forward and not getting stuck in any of that process. And so you're going to help us with that. Tell me who you are, like what brought you to what you're doing right now.
So I'm a registered nurse. I've worked in this area for 31 years as a nurse. I have a certificate of mental health post-nursing because I was working on psychiatry for a while once I graduated. I've done a lot of home care in this area, and then the last 8 years I was out on the reserve. So grief and loss has been part of my life. It's part of what you do as a nurse, right? You run into people through the stages of people passing all the time. Yeah. So,
wow.
What I found is it's a real gift to be kind of in the palliative area, watching, going through, helping a family process that. It's like being a midwife to helping someone go through that process, and it's an honor. It's a real honor.
Okay, so it's opposite, really. One you're bringing them into life, and another you're bringing them in through death.
Right. Wow,
never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you are a part of FCSS, which is?
It's the Family and Community Support Services in Cardston here. It's all through Alberta. But in 2010, I went to them for some support to run a group for the caregivers here in town. I could really see how they suffer, and and how when you help the whole family, everybody got better. So we started in 2010 with the doctors.
So your focus was on caregivers.
Caregivers,
not the people, not the family members who were losing, and in turn, it helped the families.
Actually, we found that we did both at that time.
Okay.
We ran a program with recreation therapy. I was working with AHS and the doctors, and even the University of Lethbridge came in, and Marilyn Bevins, she had her students come down. So we put on a big program to teach people they need to really take care of themselves during that process. We had a big forum, we had classes, and U of L kind of helped with running the classes. It was a really good, and then the FCSS gave us the support. Alberta Health Services helped me by letting me and Shelley Wahlberger. We ran a program for, she had the family and we had the
caregivers.
The caregivers. So it was a great big program for that year. And from that, we have just kind of kept going. I have kept going with it.
Right.
Kind of stepped outside of the work role and just did that on my own with the FCSS. And so with that, we run caregiver programs, but we also have found a big need for the grief and loss.
Grief and loss, and that's what we're going to talk about most today. That's
right.
This. Do you want to tell the audience, tell everybody what's happening here in Cardston on October 23rd and what happens annually, right?
So every year we try and put on a grief and loss program. So this one is October 23rd, goes to the November 27th, so it's 6 weeks. And
that's a Wednesday.
It's Wednesday nights from 7 till 8:30. We do use, this is the book that we follow, it's Grief and Loss. Lise LeBlanc in her Wish I Knew series. We also have been using hers for caregiver shields, because caregivers, they'll say, oh, I wish I knew how hard this is.
Right.
I wish I knew about stuff like that. So this is a really good, it's a guide, and then there's workbooks to go with it. And it takes you through, 6 weeks of stuff you need to know and deal with. And so each week we'll go through a chapter. We have it on slides and stuff as well. Because we did do it on Zoom for a while. And so.
What are some of the things that you'll learn there? Let's talk a little bit about grief. What is grief?
Grief is that feeling, I think, like if someone gets told, like yourself, that someone's passed, it's that knife right through your heart. That is so hard.
Yeah.
It is so hard to get rid of that agony of loss.
Right, and you can't control it.
No.
Right, it hits you and you have to deal with it. Really.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with it, then you're stuck. You're stuck in that grief. And so some of the stages of grief, I guess, you go through. Right, which are, I know there's guilt, there's sorrow.
Yeah. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, I've got a book here with hers, and she has the 5 stages, but you don't go through them all just, like there's so many stages.
Right, and you can go back and forth.
Oh, yes.
I've gone back and forth. I've thought, okay, I'm through that. I'm now into, and then I'll find myself angry again or feeling, so you can go back and forth in that.
Yes.
And this will help you to transition through each stage more smoothly and not have to go back, or what can I expect to happen?
No, we can't promise you won't have to go back. But let's just put it this way. Here's an example. My dad, when his first child was born, Mom was in the hospital.
Right.
He thought, oh, let's make this easy. They had this ceremony before my mom left the hospital. She never got to grieve her firstborn.
Oh.
And years later, finally bought a headstone. But that never left her. And so sometimes people think we're just trying to help. We'll just put it under the carpet. We'll bury this. We'll just bury these feelings.
Save you from hurting.
Right.
Doesn't
work.
No. And you have to face them.
You do. And otherwise, like families can get the feeling of, I shouldn't talk about stuff. And they will bury grief, whether it's a job or a toenail. It just becomes, we bury everything.
Yeah. Loss is something we just don't want to talk about.
Right.
It's negative or depressing or sad. We always want to leave the sad and the depressing and the negative somewhere else. We don't want to have to face it.
Right. And so where
Yet
does
there's
that
some
go?
people that focus on that too.
Uh-huh.
Focus on that side of it, and that's all they can think of is the sadness and the...
That's a fine line, isn't it? That's really true. I have had a nephew that passed, and it was an overdose. It was quick.
Oh.
And it was so hard. My sister couldn't stop talking about it, and it became like it became okay enough. You've got to move on.
Yeah.
So there is a point where you have to look at that.
Right. And so how does this help them move on? Because I have a brother who's suffering in the same way.
I'm just going to go back one sec when we said when you don't
Please
deal
do.
with it, what happens? And as a nurse, I can tell you,
sick.
you get sick. You can put it in, you bury it, but you bury it into your tissues. A lot of times it is painful and it will come out forever unless it's kind of like, you just need to honor that feeling. And if you can, take the time. You know, and it'll happen like for years. I mean, it's like when you're close to someone and they hold that space of belonging for you, when that's gone, it's very hard. It's very hard, and so.
Yes, it is. I can attest to that, definitely. And they hopefully find their way through it. Now, and we can't judge, like you said earlier, we can't judge the timing on that, can we? For everybody, for everybody it's different, the timing on that. But when somebody stays in it too long and you see it making them sick, and you see it affecting their life in such a negative way, are we going to learn about how to help someone like that?
I think like we do need tools to move forward.
Right.
So one of the things that we've been, that I've been putting forward is every week we'll get a different tool.
Oh, nice.
So that you
for our
can
toolkit.
So you have something that you can do for yourself.
Good.
To help bring that out of your body.
Perfect.
So I'll give you the first one.
Okay. Please do.
It's really a beautiful thing, and if you can sit in your chair, feet on the floor, put your hands up like this, and just breathe. 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out, 4 counts. Like
why are my
in,
hands up?
Receiving.
Just to open, receive. Okay.
Yeah, to be open. Yeah, if you, it just seems to work way better. So you can do it sitting up or lying down. So breathe in 4 breaths, just like 4 counts. Breathe in and breathe out 4. Breathing in 4 and out 4. And notice your body just relaxing. Focus on your body everywhere it's not relaxing to relax. And then in your mind, if you can find a place of beauty.
So it's a bit of a meditation.
It is. It's
Eyes
just
open.
whether you look at a picture or this roof in here, imagine your favorite scene in the countryside, Waterton, just going to a place that is
Peaceful and beautiful.
and lovely. So your body will get the message because your body needs to relax when you're holding anything. So then you might notice a pain or tightness, and so then just breathing into that. It helps to shut your eyes and just go inside because everything else is outside, and we want to honor our inner journey here because this is huge. And you don't need to do anything with it. You just breathe, think of happy thoughts.
I feel the tears coming.
Yeah.
That would probably be a natural thing if you're just allowing. Then if there's sadness in there. I guess if there were anger, then...
It'll come too.
Yeah. Guilt, whatever those feelings are.
So you did feel the tears coming?
I did feel. I feel the sadness.
Yeah. So if you just
honor that feeling.
lay on the couch, sit in a chair, spend time every day just honoring that feeling, letting it come up, letting yourself feel it, thinking of that lovely place. So there's two parts of you. There's the part of you that's kind of watching over yourself, your higher being. And then there's a part of you in your body that's got these emotions.
Right.
And your body's tension and the feelings. And it's like you as a spirit, you might say, is one allowing yourself to be safe and just to let this come up.
Right. Wow, good.
So that's, how did that feel?
It felt good, yeah. I love to meditate. I love to quiet, you know, stay quiet myself if I get too loud or too busy. So that's, I never thought about, you know, when we are going through, so my mother just passed away and we went through planning a big celebration of life for her, right? And so what do? You get busy, you get loud, you get going, and you don't take that time to just be quiet because there's always something to do.
Right.
And so that's really important, I think, in this whole process to remember, even if you're busy and because all of a sudden you have family, you're just take that time.
Right.
And that's why I mentioned to you before the taping that my issues in getting to Vancouver and taking 2 days to get there was actually a blessing, because what did I have, right? Quiet. I sat in the motel room, quiet. I was able to just tune into those feelings and talk to my mom, right?
Yeah.
It was, like my dad says, it's one-sided as far as conversation, but I was able to just talk to her and I just think that there was greater healing in that process than quickly running to the area of all the busy and becoming a part of that and helping others. And
I think the universe sometimes has a really good help for those, sort of steps
I didn't
in.
curse my car. I thought, okay, we'll go with the flow here.
Right.
I guess we're going to be held up for a little while.
And maybe that's exactly what needed to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
When I was stuck in traffic in Salmon Arm, just outside of Salmon Arm, I just thought, okay, I think I get this. I think I'm getting this. I think I'm not supposed to get there yet. And I just opened up the door. It was a nice evening. And put my legs out the window and just sat back and enjoyed it. Do you know the Salmon Arm, BC area? Beautiful.
It is.
I was right beside the lake, the Shuswap Lake, up on the hill. I just sat there. This is beautiful.
It's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So is there anything else you would like to share with me that I'm going to learn by going to this 6-week, taking that time out that's going to benefit me? I have a lot of hurting family members right now. I'm hurting. I haven't experienced grief in this way. I've experienced loss, but not through death. And I imagine the principles are the same in healing, quite a bit the same. But is there something that you'd like to mention that you think is important?
Sure. I really...
Sorry
No,
to
go ahead.
interrupt you. Why would I invite people to come to your class, to come to this class? What are they going to get out of it?
So a lot of times people will close off. They, I can handle it. I don't want to speak about this in front of anybody. I don't want to sit there and share my stuff. And
like it makes them weak or something?
It's
It could be
it's-
that.
Sometimes it's like, well, I don't do that. I don't do that.
Oh,
Right? I don't do that.
I
kind of
keep
stuff.
my emotions
Yeah.
aside. Yeah.
Right? And so there's, yeah, I'll come, but I'm not going to speak. Or, you know,
Okay.
the thing is, when you have a group, you develop a sense of like belonging. And when you've had a loss of that magnitude, and other people can share that as well, because they're also having that same experience. So then
Unifies you.
you become a
Unifies you.
little bit in the sense of that belonging again,
Mhm.
and your importance of what you have to say. It's really,
Right.
it comes out.
Right.
Your importance of what you're sharing, because it speaks their words for them,
Right.
right? So it's not just about you, and then it becomes more as you heal, as you raise your grief to an honoring state of emotion,
Right. Vibration.
that moves through your family, whether they're
Right.
here or they're in Vancouver.
Right.
They also are elevated.
Tell me
Even-
about the ring finger before I forget. What was that all about?
Okay, so the ring finger, I do some meridian work,
Okay.
and the lung and the large intestine meridian is here on your ring finger.
Right.
So that's one of the things that you can do as well, is hold that ring finger.
Just hold it
Just because you're sending a little
to my heart.
energy to to the lungs.
Oh, to the lungs.
'Cause
So that
this-
I breathe deeper and,
Yes.
and more clear.
This finger's about letting go,
Okay.
right? It's about letting go.
Okay.
And sometimes a lot of people get colds, they get pneumonia,
Mhm.
they have congestion
Yeah.
in their hearts. And it's, if you can just hold that finger at times, thinking
Oh.
happy thoughts.
Okay.
Now the little finger is your small intestine and your heart. So,
Oh, okay.
so here's a little example. When my brother, he overdosed, we were cleaning
Oh,
his
I'm
apartment
sorry.
out, and I broke this finger.
Really?
Yeah, we're just lifting the
It was
couch up the
weak.
stairs.
It was weak.
When I heard the news of him, it was like a knife.
Yeah.
It was like a
Oh, of
knife through my heart.
course.
And I still feel that at times, and I'm like, okay, so
Right.
this finger would not heal. I couldn't heal it.
Oh.
I had splints forever. And finally, I was in a class for the meridians, and the girl was holding it, and the tears came out. I had enough feeling come out, but
Yeah.
the emotion was still stuck in my finger.
Wow.
And then it healed.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Our bodies
Our
hold
body,
that.
spirit,
Yeah.
that whole mind,
Yes.
body, spirit
Yeah.
connection is amazing, amazingly powerful.
So holding your little finger can
healing.
help your heart.
Okay. I'll be walking around holding all my fingers.
No, it's just when you're sitting. You can be sitting at a
I
lunch.
know,
Just
I
hold
know.
hold yourself and give yourself some love. I think that's the most important
Yeah,
thing.
that's right.
Yeah, just give yourself hugs.
We all need that. And you're right, we need to give it to ourselves.
Right.
We need to give grace to ourselves.
And that's the word here. We used to call it grief to loss when we were doing with the book.
Okay. But now it's grief to
We've
grace.
changed it to grief to grace.
Grace. Yeah,
Because
perfect name.
I just think it's that grace that brings you through when you're
Right.
in grief, and what you want is to acknowledge that as a grace.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. That was great. Great information. I'm looking forward to this class. And you'll have another one in the spring
Possibly.
or fall.
Yeah,
And we'll make sure that we announce that on a future episode as soon as we know when. So you make sure I know. I think
Okay.
this is really important. So many of us are suffering with grief and loss. It's a natural part of life, but it's really an unfortunate and sad part of life and a hard part of life. But it doesn't really have to be as sad and hard, does it?
It's honoring.
It's honoring.
It's honoring that process, and
Right.
it happens all the time.
Right.
It's part of our life.
Yes.
So,
It is.
yeah.
It is. There's no other way out, is there?
Yeah.
So would you like to tell our audience how they can reach you?
Sure. You can look on the Caring Connection. It's Our Caring Connection .ca. There's a website, and there's my phone number is on that as well. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So
Thank
much
you.
for
Good
coming.
luck. You take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too.
Breathe. Hold your fingers.
I will. I will be doing that, except when I'm driving.
Yeah.
The reality is, you will grieve forever. You will not get over the loss of a loved one. You will learn to live with it. You will heal and you will rebuild yourself around the loss you have suffered. You will be whole again, but you will never be the same. Welcome to Tips for Your Toolbox. Today I want to introduce you to a technique that can serve as a tool in managing your grief. Emotional Freedom Technique, EFT, or tapping, a technique that can help us manage grief and other intense emotions. The science behind EFT tapping suggests that it can reduce stress and anxiety and promote a sense of calm. Tapping is like acupuncture without the needles. It sends calming signals to the amygdala, the brain's center for processing fear and stress. Studies show that EFT significantly reduces cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, promoting relaxation and emotional stability. In part 2, we will learn the 8 meridian points of EFT. For today, I'd just like to cover one. This one will help to soothe the nervous system. Okay, so here we go. We're going to sit up straight or stand up. So you all of a sudden end up in some kind of emotional state due to something, let's say grieving. You're reminded of something and you start to feel a deep sadness or stress, fear, or even anger. One of the emotional feelings that you get when you're going through grieving. You're going to stop for a moment if you can, and hopefully you can, and just take a couple of deep breaths. And then you're going to take your fingers and just above your brow line on your forehead, start to tap. Continue to breathe comfortably. You can even focus on a positive thought, like, even though I'm holding on to all this stress and sadness, I choose to feel relaxed and safe. You just do this for a couple of moments, or just a moment. You'll feel yourself just start to relax. And those intense feelings of anxiety start to drift away. You can do this anytime, anywhere. It's simple and effective. Try it. Our bodies hold a lot of trauma. Tapping on meridian points can help bring traumas to the surface to be released. Welcome. I'm sitting here in this comfy chair at Beyond Curves Life Enhancement Center with Deidre Shaw. We visited with Deidre before, and she's given us lots of wonderful wisdom and insight and knowledge and expertise. And she's going to do that again today around the topic of grief and loss.
Yes.
Welcome,
Yeah.
Deidre.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb. I am so sorry for the losses that you've had recently. And I have some tailored herbs just for you. Actually, we just made some tea. And one of the
Very yummy.
wonderful ingredients for the heart, for example, is rose hips and rose petals. So there's also peppermint, which of course is very rejuvenating and
Right.
helps clear the mind. And we also have some um, chamomile and mm,
What? So let's take chamomile. How's that going to help me in this grieving process that I'm going through? Some of the feelings I might be having are uh, hmm, guilt. Um, well, I'm not saying I do personally, but
mhm.
some of the feelings, if we talk about the stages of grief, especially, are denial, depression, um, gr- guilt, uh,
That's a big one.
unsettledness.
Actually, guilt is a big one
Hmm.
because so many times we feel guilty for things that we neglected
Right,
with our ones that have either deceased or departed. We feel guilty for words that had been said that you didn't want to say
mm-hmm.
or wanted to retract at some point.
Right.
There's
Or that
we
you didn't get an opportunity to say.
exactly, and sometimes not being able to say goodbye for closure.
Right,
That's a real hard one. And
right.
so, if someone passes quickly without any notice, how many of us can say goodbye?
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really hard one.
And I
Is
had such a contrast there because with my mom a few months ago, it was that sudden tragic
mm-hmm.
accident, that call in the middle of the night
Yeah,
that she's gone suddenly. And then my dad, who was sick after that, and I slept beside him in palliative care for his last week and was able to say goodbye and have some very special moments with him
mm-hmm. You can
in that
tell the
process.
difference in the closures, eh? Like
Yes.
from the mother and the
Yeah.
father, the difference.
It's still hard,
Mm-hmm.
and acceptance is a huge,
Yes.
huge one. So,
Yeah.
what can help me to be open to acceptance and out of denial?
Well, ashwagandha is a really good herb to help with those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Chamomile, again, as you had mentioned, chamomile is very relaxing and soothing for the membranes and helps
Okay.
us to kind of relax. Of course, rose petal helps to open the heart, and the rose hips, of course, gives the nutritional supplements as well. So
They sure make a nice tea.
they do.
What are the other ways that we can use those herbs?
We can use them for a bath, for example,
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted to just sit in a nice tub and soak in some of these herbs. You can make a pouch and just stick it in your water so you don't get all the
Right,
flowers
right.
and whatnot, but just stick it in the water and let it soak into the water and just lay in that and relax.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that you can do is through your aromatherapy. You can also
Diffusing.
use it through diffusers
Mm-hmm.
and even tinctures is another way that you can use
Right.
your herbs. The Bach remedies are really nice, and
Bach remedies.
Bach remedies are your floral
Oh, okay.
remedies,
Okay.
and they help with so many
Right.
different things as well. But
I
again,
was reading about lavender and how lavender.
yes, very relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the mental state, it helps the mental state. The physical, there's there's so many. Where do you start?
Right.
Really, like oat straw is another one that's really good
Okay.
to help with the heart. Um,
St. John's wort. What is
yes,
that good
it's
for?
really good for depression.
Okay, because I was just
And
going to say, if you're feeling unmotivated, I know some of the feelings I've had are just trying to get myself motivated,
mhm,
and I think it's coming from a place where I'm just feeling, um, just feeling like I don't feel like I want to do anything today.
mhm,
Yet, doing something always makes me feel better. It's
mhm.
almost a self-sabotage.
Yes,
And
and
so, vitality, Motivation and vitality.
Vitality, the stinging nettle
Oh,
is
okay.
really good for that, actually. Restorative and very nourishing. And I do have some recipes that I can
Okay,
give.
good.
Yeah, just for example, just talking about vitality, for the stinging nettle, and then oat straw and holy basil and cocoa nibs. Really, really good for
Okay.
vitality. And
And so what would
you
you
would put your product into a blender
okay.
and blend it all up. And then if you want 1 or 2 cups of tea, you can do that. That's what I did.
and drink it.
I just I blended my product, and then I put it into the teapot, and then just
This
boiled the
product,
water.
which is
Yeah,
rose petals,
yeah,
peppermint,
chamomile,
chamomile.
and herba ursa, and marigold. Yeah,
It's very nice.
it is. It is very nice. Oh, and rose hips
Soothing.
and rose petals. Yeah, and there's pink rose petals, and it's interesting too, the different kinds of rose petals, the pink, or excuse me, or the red,
Right.
and the pink seems to be more soothing for the heart. And
Well,
so
we'll make sure that we put some of those recipes in a link for people to
yeah,
look at.
yeah. And it also has for grief the aromatherapy roll-on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Yeah.
you can take it with you, and if you're feeling sort of blue, just take out your roller ball, and
Right.
you can do that too. And that has your rose essential oils, frankincense, and cedar wood. That is so beautiful.
Right.
Actually, it's a very beautiful blend. And that one you would apply to your wrists and your temples and the heart area.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it's a part of life. Death is a part of life. We're all going to experience loss, grief and loss, and there are ways that we can go through it that will be easier on ourselves. We'll make it easier, and will be more soothing and helpful. We can just go through it, and I know that I've been told in an interview I did with Kathleen is she said that we have to feel through our emotions. Many of us, we don't want to feel those emotions. The tears come up and we stop it. And yet it's so important to feel through them. These herbs can help us to open up to those feelings and allow them and allow ourselves to process them.
And the other thing you can do with the herbs too, like today we have a warm tea. You can also do a cold tea. Like you can put it into cold water and let the cold water absorb, and you can also just let this cool down. You can make a pot of tea, and you can keep it for up to 48 hours.
Right.
So
just have it on hand.
Have it on hand whenever you're just sitting and kind of start to feel emotional. Just grab a cup of tea and I know too, one of the things I'd like you to talk about is fear, and one of the emotions, and how
fear of losing.
Yes,
people.
and a lot of things people don't talk about it, but as we get older and we start losing our loved ones, we start thinking about other things, about even ourselves, and others that are close in our family, that perhaps siblings that are older,
Right.
and or aunts and uncles, that are older. Even as I get older, I even have fear for my children.
I was going to say it. My children and grandchildren are. I have to control that fear.
Yes.
That,
and
it's
that's
not
something that
safe environments that they're in.
Isn't talked about. And yes, that's so true. We need to have a safe environment to be able to talk about those things and the emotions. And of course, again, over a nice cup of tea, the herbs, and helps us to have a calm sense, and yet be able to talk about these things and not get emotional. And
Right.
like I've got the Kleenex out just in case, right?
Well, and you just never know when those emotions are going to hit.
That's right.
I was driving home today, and all of a sudden, just this wave of emotion, and just this missing, missing family members that have passed on, and realizing that making memories with them is no longer. I have to hold on to the memories I have.
Yeah.
There won't be any new ones. And
That is so true.
It's kind of a sad thought.
So true.
But thankfully, I do believe in an afterlife, and that I'll see them again. But that feels like a long time. We have this time thing that goes on here on Earth.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, when we think about it, like how long have we been on this earth? It doesn't seem that long.
Right.
Like so time does go really quick.
Right.
But when you're young, you don't see that or think that way.
Well, thank you so much, Deidre. That's some great insights and great ideas on how to use some of these herbs, these healing herbs that are right there for us.
They are.
And so we can grow our own, or we can get them through you or other vendors.
Yeah. Yeah, we can go foraging in the spring.
Yes.
And in the summer.
And
in the fall.
We'll take Rogers with us.
There you go.
Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, Deb.
Love you.
Have your tea.
Thank you.
Heart balm herbs to uplift the spirits, soothe the soul, and calm the psyche as you navigate through grief. Today in Coach's Corner, I will be sharing with you 3 skills that we can use to help us cope with our grief and our feelings of loss. These skills come from a book, Somatic Experiences, written by Peter Levine. Through extensive research and work with survivors, Dr. Levine developed somatic experiencing, a revolutionary approach centered on the body's innate ability to heal itself. This method resolves trauma by gently addressing suppressed feelings rather than only discussing events of trauma and loss. These skills in somatic experiencing therapy are: 1. Body awareness, paying attention to bodily sensations and movements and feelings. Pendulation, number 2, shifting focus between feelings of safety and discomfort. 3, titration, working with small amounts of physical or emotional tension at a time, is a body-oriented therapy developed by Dr. Levine to help people heal from trauma and other associated stress with grief and loss. It helps people reconnect with their bodies and release stored energy. Once we know, then we can implement the proper skills and strategies, like some of the things I mentioned in my Healing Wellness Journey segment. Also included would be deep breathing, yoga, other body movement, and any healthy ways of relaxing. Second, when we talk about pendulation, I want you to imagine a pendulum swinging back and forth. Balance. To move through our pain when it hits us, we need to allow the pendulum to swing. Not stop ourselves from feeling it, but allow ourselves to swing into it, even for just a few minutes, and then swing out of it. If you stay too long on the feeling side, that's when you become sad or depressed, and you look for ways to avoid the feeling and withdraw or keep it all pent up inside. But if you feel through it and then swing out of it in small doses at first, eventually resilience comes and the pendulum will swing wider. When swinging out of it, you can do different things like go for a walk or listen to some positive music or meditate or podcast or watch something funny. Remember, the feelings of loss come from a broken connection. Making connections that strengthen you will help, whether with people, pets, or activities. Not to replace the beloved one you lost, but to add to your survival healing toolbox. Third, titration. Our nervous system can become overwhelmed if we push too much all at once. So titration involves little steps, doing things in small doses, even setting time limits if possible. If it's not possible and we have to do things quickly, like clean out a home or go through pictures for a funeral announcement, then that is when we need to practice self-care and even use resources. After my dear mom passed away suddenly and tragically, I put off clearing away her clothes. I started the process in small doses, practicing titration. When my sister offered to travel to our home and help me go through her clothing, I decided to accept her kind offer. She's a busy mom, and though I didn't want to add more stress to her life, I knew it would be good for both of us. Having her with me actually turned out to be a therapeutic and healing blessing. We cried together, laughed together, and reminisced during the process. It was still difficult, but not near as difficult as it would have been by myself and stretched over a longer period of time. But still, it was all I did at that time. It was a little step. 3 months later, when my dad passed away on New Year's Eve of this past year, quite suddenly, my brothers came to my rescue and helped to start the process of gathering his things. Though they would have gladly cleared it all to keep me from having to do so, I asked them to leave it there for a time. They graciously agreed. I wasn't ready to see my parents' lives dismantled. You see, when they moved into our area 5 years ago, we moved into our basement suite and they moved upstairs into the suite above us. Right now, it feels better for me not to dismantle their lives upstairs all at once. Titration will be key. Small doses. It's almost like they're just away for a while. Now, I know this will not be healthy if I continue it for too long. I do have a plan of action. It may not be as immediate as some would wish upon me, or themselves if it were their situation. But again, it's my personal grief process and healing journey. The important principle here is that we are indeed on a journey of healing, progressing and moving forward. We remember that our journeys are unique to our circumstances and state. No one can predict how long it will take as long as we are moving forward in a healthy way. We can only do that by not ignoring what our bodies, minds, and hearts are feeling. Practicing self-care when we come up against those feelings, especially in our body and mind, allowing ourselves, like a pendulum, to swing in and out to gain greater resilience. And then last, but not least, do so in small doses if we can. Practicing titration so that you don't experience overwhelm. One of the things I mentioned in the segment, My Healing Wellness Journey, is journaling. Though I believe all the steps that I mentioned are very important, writing out what we feel can be so therapeutic. Yes, it takes a little bit of our time, but time so well spent.
Grief is like the ocean. It comes on waves, ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the water is calm, and sometimes it's overwhelming. All we can do is learn to swim.
my Healing Wellness Journey segment today, I want to talk about an awakening I recently had in my own grieving process. Last week, my dear daughter's birthday came and went without my acknowledgement. Anyone who knows me knows that my children are everything to me. My family holds priority in my life. The day of her birthday was a busy day, actually in studio. But I've had many busy days on my children's birthdays, and never before have I forgotten. I was devastated, of course. Thankfully, she understood and graciously forgave the huge blunder. And I did everything I could to convince her that her mom truly loves her and considers her birthday very special. Shortly after this experience, I was studying the topic of grief and loss and learned that grief actually rewires the brain. How? Well, by altering neural connections and pathways, primarily by activating the brain's emotional centers and releasing stress hormones, leading to changes in memory, cognitive function, and emotional regulation, often causing difficulties with attention, decision-making, and even basic tasks due to the intense emotional processing involved in grief and loss. Essentially, the brain prioritizes processing the grief over other cognitive functions, resulting in brain fog. It's not just age, and what often comes with age, loss of loved ones. So, excuse or reason? Because there are things that I'm forgetting that I would never, ever have forgotten, I believe it is a valid reason. So, what to do? According to Dr. Schulman, this condition, which is also referred to as grief brain, is reversible. These are some of the things that we can engage in that help this reversal process. 5 mindfulness and relaxation practices. First, journaling. Second, cognitive behavioral therapy, which manages negative and self-defeating thoughts and beliefs. Third, counseling. Fourth, creativity. Fifth, meditation/prayer. Well, I've begun journaling my thoughts and feelings in gratitude with much more fervor recently. Also, up the ante with cognitive behavioral therapeutic exercises to recognize those negative thoughts and belief patterns that I consistently work to shift and change in my life. I haven't engaged in counseling, but I did enroll in a Latter-day Saint self-reliant class for strengthening emotional self-reliance, and I'm really excited about starting that. It begins this week. Creativity. My dear daughter-in-law, knowing I was struggling, graciously invited me to go skating with her and my 3 sweet preschool grandsons this week. People may not know that I was once an avid figure skater, and I love the sport. But it's been a while since I've been on skates. I was so happy to experience the freedom of gliding along on the ice and helping my grandboys as they were learning that it raised my feelings of creativity. What a blessing. A friend saw me shortly after and told me, "Deb, it's so nice to see the sparkle coming back." A sparkle I didn't even know I had and lost. Then, of course, last but not least, meditation and prayer. 2 mind and spirit strengthening practices that I couldn't progress without. The 5 steps I mentioned can be used as outlets for post-traumatic growth. These strategies allow feelings of safety, security, and calmness to return so that one can move forward. It's important to remember these words by Dr. Schulman, and I'll end this segment on those wise words. If we don't work through the traumatic experiences that we have, they will continue to be an obstacle in our lives. May God bless you all on your own personal healing journeys.
Grief brain is a real thing. It's important to acknowledge it.
When I think of all you taught me through the years, things I've come to understand to help me conquer fears, things to bless my life and make each day a new and better day. I'll carry on your legacy by living a holier way. I'll turn to God, let Him touch my heart with love and fill my soul with peace. I'll invite Him in, let Him heal my heart, and through prayer find sweet release. In the darkest night, when my tears are shed, I'll turn to God, just like you said. The time has come when you're called home and we have to say goodbye. And though it's only for a time, I'll miss you and I'll cry. But these tears are dried by faith, a faith that you have shown to me. A gift that sees me through this life and to you eternally. I'll turn to God, let Him touch my heart with love and fill my soul with peace. I'll invite Him in, let Him heal my heart, and through prayer find sweet release. In the darkest night, when my tears are shed, I'll turn to God, just like you said. I watched you fight your fight, and I saw you as you kneeled to pray. And just like you, I'll do the same. Turn to God, let Him touch my heart with love and fill my soul with peace. I'll invite Him in, let Him heal my heart, and through prayer find sweet release. In the darkest night, when my tears are shed, I'll turn to God, just like you said. I'll turn to God, just like you said. When I think of all you taught me through the years, things I've come to understand to help me conquer fears, things to bless my life and make each day a new and better day. I'll carry on your legacy by living a holier way. I'll turn to God, let Him touch my heart with love and fill my soul with peace. I'll invite Him in, let Him heal my heart, and through prayer find sweet release. In the darkest night, when my tears are shed, I'll turn to God, just like you said. The time has come when you're called home and we have to say goodbye. And though it's only for a time, I'll miss you and I'll cry. But these tears are dried by faith, a faith that you have shown to me. A gift that sees me through this life and to you eternally. I'll turn to God, let Him touch my heart with love and fill my soul with peace. I'll invite Him in, let Him heal my heart, and through prayer find sweet release. In the darkest night, when my tears are shed, I'll turn to God, just like you said. I watched you fight your fight, and I saw you as you kneeled to pray. And just like you, I'll do the same. Turn to God, let Him touch my heart with love and fill my soul with peace. I'll invite Him in, let Him heal my heart, and through prayer find sweet release. In the darkest night, when my tears are shed, I'll turn to God, just like you said. I'll turn to God, just like you said.